Hi, welcome to my tutorial on how to make the perfect cup of tea. So, first and foremost, what you need is your tea. How you make your tea depends on which type of tea you have. An herbal tea, for example, can be steeped at a higher temperature and typically has these bigger chunks in it, as you can see here, compared to a green tea, which has a lot of little particles you can see at the bottom. So if you're making something such as a herbal tea, or one that has a lot of big particles, you can use a steeper as such. One that has not big holes, but ones that your large components can sit in and steep, whereas if you were to use this one for a green tea, all these little particles would probably slip through and would stick into your water. For a green tea, then you would want to use something like such, like a tea bag. So you can see here that nothing's really getting through this, right? It looks like paper. So none of those tea particles will get into your water. The next material you'll need is your mug or your cup or whatever you'd like to use. If you're going to be brewing your tea hot, you would like to have a mug, whereas if you're brewing it cold, you can use something like a plastic cup, but you would not want to use plastic if you're brewing it hot. So you can have a mug that has a steeper specific to the mug. It fits perfectly in here, but this isn't a one size fits all, because if you have a wider mug, this is going to fall into it, and that's when you want to use something like a tea bag. So another component that's helpful is having like a lid. It can condense or keep the heat in while you're making your tea, and you can also leave your steeper on it when you're done. The next material you're going to need is something to measure your tea. Depending on how much water goes in your mug, there will be a specific amount of tea that you should put into that water. Depending on your preferences, you can also have some kind of sweetener that you would like to add into your tea. So here's an example of honey straws. If you were to use a honey straw, all you would have to do is take your straw, cut off the ends, and stick it in your tea while it is brewing, and then that's it. Your honey is added in, it's melted, and you're good to go. The last and probably most important item that you will need is something to heat your water. Now, I use this kettle here that just sits on a hot plate, and I can put it to my desired temperature. And this is important because different types of tea steep at different temperatures. So if you've ever had a tea and it tastes a little burnt, that's because the leaves probably did get burnt while it was being made. So to make it properly, you want to have a kind of kettle or something to heat your water where you can pick the temperature that you heat it to. Different teas have different steeping temperatures, and they also have different steeping times. For example, herbal teas typically steep longer than green teas. So it's important that you do your research, or when you buy your tea, you buy one with instructions on it. That way you know the exact temperature and time that you should be steeping that tea, so that you don't burn the tea leaves or get too much flavor in there as well. Now, what we've all been waiting for, let's go make a tea. As a reference, today I'm going to be making an herbal tea that has dragon fruit in it. So, as I said earlier, this one has a lot of big chunks, and it does have some little particles, but not as many. So that is why today I'm going to be using one of these steepers. Now, this one specifically has a 200-degree steeping temperature and a 6-minute steeping time. Again, you should always look up the instructions for your specific tea so that you don't burn your leaves or your herbs, or you don't steep it for too long. Because my tea has a 200-degree steeping temperature, I'm going to turn on my kettle here, and I'm going to turn it to 200 degrees, and I will wait until it is ready. While that water is warming up, I'm going to go ahead and take my tea, and I measured out 1 tablespoon, because my mug here holds about 8 ounces of water, and that's what the instructions say. You can go ahead and put that in your steeper, and once your water is ready, pour that over top. Now my water is done heating to 200 degrees. If you're going to add any sweetener, now is the time to do so. You can add it right on top of your tea here, any sugar, granulated honey, or even raw honey. And I will take my water, fill it up about 8 ounces, and then I will let it sit for about 6 minutes. You can also, if you have the chance or have the materials, use the lid and set it on top. This will keep the heat inside the cup. Now my 6 minutes are up, so my tea is done steeping and I should remove it. First thing I'm going to do is take off this lid. You have to be very cautious while taking this out, especially if you are working with a metal steeper. It will be the same temperature as your water, about 200 degrees, maybe a little less. So be careful while you're taking it out. If you do have a lid, can put the tea that's still in the steeper on it, because many times you can actually re-steep your tea. This one could do about 2 or 3 re-steeps in a day, and I could have 2 or 3 cups instead of just 1. So I would set this aside until I'm ready for my next steep. So now you have your tea, but what's next? Well, your water is currently sitting at about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So I would advise that you do not drink it right away. It's going to burn your mouth and no one wants that. So you can either add an ice cube or just wait for it to cool down if you don't want the ice to water down your tea. While you're waiting, you can take your tea or your fruit or your herbs or whatever, and you can dump it directly from the steeper into your trash can. Now it's very important that you don't dump it down your drain, because if you are using actual tea leaves, they will expand and that will clog your pipes, and again, no one wants that. So you can dump your tea directly into a trash, or if you use a trash bag, it makes your life even easier and you just put the whole thing in your garbage. And then you wait and you'll have your gorgeous tea. Now, I let my tea sit for a few minutes and I added 2 ice cubes just to make the cool down process go a little faster. And now that I can actually touch my mug and it is not too hot to the touch, I know it's ready to drink. And it's absolutely amazing. So there you have it. Thank you for watching, and now you know how to make the perfect cup of tea.